You close the door after a long day. The noise of the world finally fades. No group chat blowing up your phone. No forced smiles. Just you. And it feels like the first real breath you've taken in hours. If that moment feels like coming home to yourself, not because you hate people, but because you finally feel times alive times again, then you already know what most psychologists are only now starting to prove. Society has spent decades telling us that the loudest, most connected, most on person wins. American culture rewards the networker, the party host, the one who's always down for anything. Schools, workplaces, even dating apps push the same message. More people equals more success, equals more happiness. But the latest research in personality, psychology, and neuroscience says the exact opposite is true for a significant portion of us.
Why is he so quiet?
People who genuinely prefer being alone aren't antisocial. They're not broken. They're wired differently in ways that give them rare psychological advantages most extroverts will never experience. Here are the 5 rare traits that science is finally taking seriously. Trait 1. Your brain runs on a rich, internal world instead of external stimulation. Recent studies from psychologists like Netta Weinstein and Thuy Nguyen show that people who choose solitude often have exceptionally strong dispositional autonomy. They're guided by their own internal compass, rather than outside pressure. While most people feel restless or even anxious when left alone with their thoughts, your mind settles. It wanders. It reflects. It solves problems in the background. You don't need constant input to feel okay.
Alert!
In fact, too much input actually disrupts you. This isn't laziness. It's a highly developed capacity for self-reflection that research links to better emotional regulation and long-term life satisfaction. Trait 2. Social interactions hit your nervous system at full volume. Here's something most people get completely wrong. You don't have less time social energy. You actually process social cues with far greater depth and intensity. Neuroscience research on introversion shows that many people who prefer solitude have a more sensitive response to dopamine, the brain chemical tied to reward and stimulation. What feels like pleasant buzz to an extrovert can feel like overload to you. You're not skimming conversations. You're reading tone, micro-expressions, subtext, and emotional undercurrents all at once. That's why after a few hours in a crowded room or back-to-back Zoom calls, you feel completely wiped out while everyone else seems fine. Your brain isn't weak. It's running on higher resolution. Trait 3. You possess an almost automatic emotional radar.
It was the
Studies
best
on
news
sensory
ever.
processing sensitivity,
Congratulations.
a trait found in roughly 30% of people, reveal that those who prefer solitude often pick up emotional signals in their environment that others completely miss. You walk into a meeting or family gathering and instantly sense who's tense, who's pretending, who just had an argument. It's not magic. It's your nervous system tuned to a finer frequency. This hyper-awareness is exhausting in a noisy, overstimulated world, which is exactly why solitude becomes non-negotiable. It's not escape, it's recalibration. It's the only way you can hear your own voice again after being flooded by everyone else's. Trait 4.
How does this work?
Solitude is where your creativity actually turns on.
Aha! I got
Multiple studies, including groundbreaking work on unsociability by psychologist Julie Bowker and research on mind wandering by Benjamin Baird, show a clear link. People who comfortably choose alone time generate more original ideas and experience deeper creative flow states. Why? Because creativity needs space for unexpected connections. When the external world goes quiet, your brain's default mode network lights up, linking old memories, new observations, and wild possibilities in ways that simply don't happen in group brainstorming sessions or open office environments. The greatest thinkers, writers, and innovators throughout history understood this instinctively. Your preference for solitude isn't wasting time. It's the exact condition your mind needs to do its best work.
Hey,
Trait
you made it.
5.
Your turn.
You don't collect friends, you cultivate depth.
Perfect timing. Looks fun.
Because you experience life so intensely, shallow interactions feel like a waste of your limited energy. Your brain runs a quick cost-benefit analysis and often decides, this conversation isn't worth it. That's why your inner
Everything's going
circle
to
is
be all right.
small, but incredibly meaningful. The people in it aren't there because you need them for status or networking. They're there because you chose them and they chose you back. Research consistently shows that people who prefer positive solitude often form fewer, but far more stable and satisfying relationships. Quality over quantity isn't a compromise. It's strategic wisdom. Now, before we wrap this up, I need to be honest with you about something important. Everything I just described only applies when your preference for solitude comes from a place of strength, when being alone feels like freedom, recharge, and clarity. There's a different version that looks almost identical from the outside. Choosing solitude because connection feels scary, because you've been hurt, or because you're avoiding vulnerability. That version isn't a trait, it's a protective shield. If your alone time feels peaceful and energizing, keep leaning into it. If it sometimes feels more like hiding or loneliness in disguise, that's valuable information, and it might be worth exploring with a therapist or trusted friend. The difference matters. Here's the truth most people who prefer being alone eventually discover. You're not too
I
quiet.
reject your negativity.
You're not too picky.
I am
You're not
capable of
missing out.
anything.
You're operating on a completely different operating system, one that values depth, authenticity, creativity, and inner peace in a world that's addicted to noise and performance. The next time someone asks
so
why
quiet?
you're so quiet or never go out anymore, you can smile and know the answer.
The core principle
Because your
is
mind is
efficiency.
loud in the best
By
possible
streamlining
way,
these
and
two
sometimes the
processes,
most
we
powerful
unlock the
thing you can
potential
do
for
is simply
exponential
listen to
growth.
it. You already know what your own thoughts sound like when nobody else is around. And that, my friend, is one of the rarest and most valuable gifts a person can have.